Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be for my top 10 worst movies of 2014. Now, let me say something. 2014 was a very good year for movies. I think there were some very good movies this year, but there were just as many bad movies this year. There were many, many bad movies this year that really, really sucked that I am definitely about to talk about. And, I don't have any, I do have a few dishonorable mentions that I do want to quickly talk about. Um, so this is gonna be my top 10 worst list of the year. Now, I will say there were a few films I did not see that are not on this worst list. I did not see and this is simply because I didn't want to suffer through them. And that were Sex Tape. I didn't watch The Legend of Hercules. I didn't watch Devil's Due. I didn't watch Ouija. I didn't watch those. So if you guys are wondering why that's not on the list, it's simply because I did not watch them. But here are my dishonorable mentions. First off is Jersey Boys. That was my first dishonorable mention. Now, this movie I really wanted to like, but it's not my top 10 worst list because I didn't absolutely hate it. It wasn't a movie that I absolutely hated. Another one of my dishonorable mentions is Only Lovers Left Alive, only because it's not interesting. It was very boring. I wasn't into it. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is also my dishonorable mentions list simply because of the way it was structured, but these are definitely my top 10 worst movies. Now let's get started. Number 10 is a movie you probably have never heard of. Now, I saw this movie back in August. They did a live stream on it on YouTube. I was really excited for it. And number 10 is College Musical. Now, College Musical was a movie I was actually really looking forward to. I didn't review this movie simply because I didn't want to. Now, this movie started off very good, but then when they introduced that whole man-child thing, the movie it ruined the entire movie for me. I didn't like the movie anymore. They suddenly wanted you to not take the movie seriously. Allison Williams was very good, and everyone in the cast was very good, but the movie sucked. The plot sucked. That's why that's number 10. Number 9 is Men, Women, and Children. Men, Women, and Children was a movie that simply I could not take seriously. They wanted you to take this movie seriously, and I couldn't take anything in the movie seriously. Especially when there's a girl that gets pregnant and has an abortion in the same scene. Like, that's not even possible. Is that even genetically possible? I don't even know. The acting in this movie was good, but it was simply that the casting, the actual structure of the movie was terrible, and I did not like Men, Women, and Children. I was surprised about how much I didn't like it, but it really was one of the worst movies of the year. Number 8 is I, Frankenstein. I, Frankenstein was a movie. I, Frankenstein, I don't care. That's how much I don't care about I, Frankenstein. I know everyone said that, but I, Frankenstein, I didn't hate this movie, but it still is a terrible, awful, awful movie. It's one of those movies that's like, could have been really, really good if it wouldn't have taken itself too seriously. If the movie would have been more fun and not have as much, crazy shit going on and not be like Angels versus Demons or like that stupid movie Legion, then I might have actually enjoyed this movie. But I didn't. I hated I, Frankenstein. I thought it was a really, really bad movie, and I hated it. Number 7 is Tammy. Tammy was a movie that did not make me laugh at all. It was completely uninteresting, was completely boring. I wasn't into it. I didn't like the idea of it. I thought Melissa McCarthy really, really needs to stop making these kind of movies because she's not good at them. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's not talented. And she needs to stick to things like St. Vincent. I heard she's very good in that. She needs to stick to things like that. Stop working with your husband. Your husband does, I know you love your husband and that's fine, but your husband does not know how to make funny movies. And he's literally only putting her in these movies for cash grabs. And Melissa McCarthy, just stop making these kind of movies because this movie was not funny at all. And I never want to hear about Tammy again. And please don't make another movie like Tammy again. Please don't. Just don't. Number 6 is Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones. Simply because this franchise is done for, okay? This franchise is done for. You cannot make another Paranormal Activity movie and tell me it's going to work. It's not going to work anymore. It was a thing of the past. It was a cool idea, but it worked for 3 movies, and now it is to the equivalent of, like, the Blair Witch Project 2. That's how bad this movie is. And now, guys, wait for some really big, ferocious yelling. My top 5 worst movies of 2014. These are movies that enraged me, offended me, made me question why they exist, especially, like, the bottom 3. All 3 of these movies made me question why these movies exist. And let's just get started. Number 5 is Legends of Oz, Dorothy's Return. One of the most unnecessary sequels of all time. Some of the worst animation I've ever seen in my entire life. One of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life. Just one of the dumbest things ever. Everyone in this movie is trying to give a good performance. Everyone in this movie is trying, but they all end up failing. All the music sucks. There's nothing memorable about this movie. It is grotesque animation. Chased by a rainbow. Dorothy gets chased by a rainbow. That's the only memorable thing about this movie, is that Dorothy gets chased by a rainbow. And I honestly feel really bad for Lea Michele. And if this is what Lea Michele is going to do after Glee, the world is doomed, okay? The world is just doomed. That is how bad this movie is. This movie was a movie I was looking forward to. I saw it. I did like an 18-minute rant. That's how I hate this movie. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Number 4 is A Haunted House 2. I really liked the first Haunted House. I thought it was a fun movie. I really enjoyed it. But A Haunted House 2 came along. It started off funny, but then when we flash back to like a year, then when we get to like a year later, this movie just became an utter piece of shit and made me question its existence. It didn't make any sense to me. I didn't care about anything in this movie. I didn't care about anything. Nothing was funny to me. It was just a big pile of shit. It was all over the place. It was a giant mess. And I hated A Haunted House 2. It was a terrible, terrible movie. Worst comedy of the year. Absolutely hated it. And it makes up for me not watching Sex Tape. That's how bad that movie is. Number 3. You guys probably can guess what my bottom 3 is. Number 3 is my most controversial rant of this year. And when I say it's my most controversial, it has 44 likes and 57 dislikes. That's how controversial this is. And that is Annie. Annie was originally my worst movie of the year. Luckily, I saw 2 other movies that were just worse than it. And you guys are probably thinking, why isn't Annie your worst movie of the year? Because there are 2 other movies that are some of the worst movies I've ever seen. Annie is the worst remake I've ever seen in my entire life. It completely destroys the original. It takes everything you love about the original and changes it. It takes everything that we cared about the original and ruins it. It took a good story. It had a good story and just completely ruined it. The only person that was actually good in the movie was Rose Byrne. It had some of the worst acting from Cameron Diaz. It really proved that Cameron Diaz is done for. It had some of the worst musical numbers of the entire year. The musical numbers in this movie sucked, and this is not a good year for musicals. I'm going to say this right now, guys. Not a good year for musicals at all. There was one good musical this year. One good musical. That was it. All the other musicals this year just sucked, and Annie was probably the worst of them all. I don't want to talk about Annie anymore. It's a terrible movie. You guys can watch my review. It's like 20-something minutes. Just watch it. Number 2 is a movie that I don't understand why the director made this movie. He didn't even get the rights. This movie is so bad that the director couldn't even get the rights to Elvis's songs and had to change his name because people knew this movie was going to suck. Number 2 is The Identical. Simply because I question his existence. Simply because I don't understand why this movie is a thing. Simply because this movie is a piece of shit and I hate it to death. And I think this movie just should have never been made. Its religious messages are ridiculous. The twists are ridiculous. The way the movie tries to make you feel something, the way the movie tries to completely, makes fun of Elvis, the way the movie thinks how songs sound in the 50s, how Elvis should sound, the looks, just everything, the fact that they had an actor play 2 of the same parts and he looks exactly the same and didn't do anything different for both parts, really ruined the entire movie for me. I hated The Identical. I thought it was going to be the worst movie of the year, and then I saw this movie, the worst movie of the year. And, the worst movie of the year. I'm pretty sure you guys can tell what the worst movie of the year is. It's not very hard to tell what the worst movie of the year is. I just reviewed it. Number 1 is Left Behind. You know, there are movies that just shouldn't be made. Left Behind is one of those movies. Left Behind should have been the movie The Interview was. Left Behind should have been the movie that was banned by North Korea. North Korea should have been ashamed of this movie. That's how bad Left Behind is. Left Behind, I could watch Nicolas Cage make that weird face in Face Off. I could watch him I could watch the Hallelujah scene from Face Off and see Nicolas Cage go, ah, like that. And that would be more for an hour and 20 minutes, and that would be more entertaining than everything that happens in Left Behind. Nothing in this movie makes sense. Nothing in this movie makes me care about anything. There's nothing in this movie that matters. Nothing in this movie is important. Nothing in this movie I cared about. Nobody in this movie gave a good performance. Everyone did this money for money. and everyone in this movie just sucks. Everyone's movie in this career is done for. There's no action in this movie the entire time. There's nothing thrilling about this movie. The religious messages don't work. The quote at the end makes the movie think it's smarter than it is. And let's just remember this. They think they're gonna make 2 more movies, and it made like $19.7 million. That's how much Left Behind sucks. That's how much I hate it, and that is why Left Behind is the worst movie of the year. This has been fun, guys. It's been fun to watch all these terrible movies, but this is the end of my worst movies of the year. Now, this is a good thing because I don't have to watch any more bad movies for this year, but we'll see what happens when 2015 comes on. We'll see what happens then. Let me know what your top 10 worst movies of the year is. Do you hate these movies as much as I do? Again, guys, as usual, all the links to these movie reviews will be posted down the link below. You guys can watch me rant about these movies to death. You can watch me rant so much about them. Paranormal Activity Mark 1's Warning, I actually say some good shit about, but then I realized it was a terrible movie. So, yeah. Watch that video. I'll see you guys in my next video, which I promise will not be about a worst movie. I'm done with the worst movies. I want to get those out of the way. My next video, now what I'm going to be doing is, let me tell you something, guys. I was going to be doing a top 10 best list today, but I kind of slept till like 3 o'clock. I don't know what my issue was. I slept till like 3 o'clock this afternoon, so I did not get to see the movie in theaters that I wanted to see. So my next review will actually be for a movie that I've wanted to see for a very long time, and I'm only going to watch about 3 more movies, and then tomorrow I will make my top 10 best list. I promise you guys I will make it tomorrow, but I will see you guys for that. Let me know what your worst movies of the year is. It's been fun to watch these worst movies. Honestly, I didn't do this last year. This is the first year I've done this, and that's because I care more about my YouTube videos. I think I should watch some of these worst movies just to see what makes a terrible movie. And now I know what makes a terrible movie. And yeah, so please don't watch any of the movies I recommended. If you like some of the movies, I'm sorry, but I feel if you like some of these movies, I'm not going to ask you why. I'm just going to ask you, are you crazy or something like that? Because all these movies, if you like Left Behind, why? Like, why would you like Left Behind? If you like Tammy or I, Frankenstein, okay, I can understand. I feel like Memoir and Sheldon, I can understand that. But if you like the Identical or Left Behind, why do you like those movies? Like, why would you like them? But still, okay. See you guys in my next video, which will be for movie review, and I will see you guys then. Okay, bye.